Order. The Honourable Trevor Mallow.
Mr Speaker, that shows the level of charity from Nick Smith. I actually happen to disagree with a number of things that the Right Honourable Winston Peters said. I have a view that it's not appropriate to subsidise the racing industry out of the pokey machines. We've differed on that in the past, but I think what we can say about the member is he has been consistent in his support of the racing industry, not only from this source but in a number of different ways as well, including the taxation, approach to it. Mr Speaker, and I'll say to the member in charge of the bill, I'll certainly support it to the Select Committee. I think there are a lot of discussions to be had there. I predict that there will be a lot of submission and a lot of discussion. But the question that the member has to answer at the end of this process, when he is speaking in reply, is why has he left out of this the people who do the biggest pokey rip-offs in the country, the people who take the most money out, the people who take the money out and they give it to John Banks, which he doesn't declare. I want to know why he has excluded the massive amount that the casinos take out of our community from this legislation, not only in the pokies but in the rest of it. And I want to know, Mr Speaker, why that member is not making people like John Banks, who receive that money and don't declare it, front up and be transparent. Mr Speaker, I would expect in a bill that is really promoting transparency about the expenditure of gaming funding, that instead of a massive amount of the money going offshore, as it does with the profits of Sky City, that it would be spent in New Zealand in the way and the methods that are set out in this bill, or actually in ways which could be quite a lot better, which I think other people have thought about over some time. But, Mr Speaker, what should also happen is that those people who receive money from those organisations, that should be transparent as well, rather than stick it in their pocket and pretending, as John Banks did, that he did not know about the donation, when clearly people like Len Brown were honest and straightforward and made declarations to that effect. Mr Speaker, there are lots of ways that we can improve this area, and I do agree with Winston Peters that people who are in touch with the community will know that things are a lot cleaner than they used to be. I mean, I think all of us who've been around for some time and in touch with the community know some pretty rough stories. The rugby club that used to get grants from the pub, from the charity associated with one pub only, they got a massive grant. Generally, half of it went back under the table to the publican, and there was also an obligation to buy beer at non-discounted rates from that particular pub. So while on the surface things looked like they were right, the money was being paid out, the audit trail went that way. What didn't happen was that we didn't see the kickbacks that were occurring either directly or as a result of pricing for alcohol that was not at the level that it should be. Now, a lot of that has been tidied up with some of the larger gaming trusts that are now being put together, more thorough audit processes, and I think a willingness for people to blow the whistle on that sort of arrangements when publicans who used to be the main beneficiaries do that. But, Mr Speaker, we still have in New Zealand a lot of hotels that are more or less reliant on the pokey machines rather than the food and liquor that they sell in order to survive. And they effectively use the pokies as a subsidy to keep an institution open that could not survive otherwise. And my view is that that is, just as I think it is for racing, it's an inappropriate subsidy for an organisation because it comes from the poorest Mr. Speaker, in the end, I'm going to listen to John Banks and see what he says about that.
Sorry to interrupt the honourable member. I call Kanwaljit Singh Bakshi.
Mr. Speaker, I am pleased to stand in